Hey, this is Zach once again. Yesterday, the Supreme Court handed down 3 decisions, and they paint a picture of a court that has completely lost its moral compass, and a country that is getting hollowed out in real time. First, Haiti. The Supreme Court, 6-3 along party lines, cleared the way for the 34-time convicted felons administration to strip temporary protected status from roughly 350,000 Haitians living legally in the United States. They can now be deported. Most of them have lived here for over a decade. Many of them have American-born children. Quite a few of them care for your grandparents in nursing homes. Temporary protected status was created to provide people with legal refuge here when their home country is simply too dangerous or too devastated to return to. Haiti qualified in 2010 after the earthquake that killed over 100,000 people and left the country in rubble. Multiple Republican and Democratic administrations renewed these protections because the situation on the ground never improved. In fact, it got even worse. This is not a liberal versus conservative issue. This is a humanity issue. The TPS program was expanded under George W.H. Bush. His administration understood that you do not send people back to a country that cannot receive them. You don't send people back into active gang warfare, political collapse, or a nation that was devastated by an earthquake, and then a hurricane, and then decades of instability. Even Republican members of Congress, 10 of them, voted with Democrats to extend TPS protections this past spring, and the Supreme Court told them to F off. Justice Kagan, in her dissent, pointed out exactly what is driving this policy. Trump himself called Haiti a filthy, dirty, disgusting country. He spread the lie that Haitian immigrants in Springfield, Ohio, were eating their neighbors' pets. He said Haitians are poisoning the blood of our country. That sounds a lot like Nazi propaganda. And SCOTUS just handed that man a deportation machine. Haitian TPS holders contribute nearly $6 billion a year to the U.S. economy. They pay more than $1.5 billion in federal, state, and local taxes every year. TPS holders across all nationalities together add $29 billion to the economy and pay $8 billion in taxes annually. These aren't people living off of welfare. They build things. They care for people. They drive deliveries and do construction, keep hospitals staffed. Entire sectors, healthcare, elder care, hospitality, are already warning that they cannot function without this labor force. The worst part? 50,000 U.S. citizen children have at least one parent holding Haitian TPS. 50,000 American children. They were born in America and have every right to be here. We're going to spend billions deporting the people who are feeding our economy and caring for our elderly. And then we'll watch those industries collapse. And then someone on Fox News is going to ask why nursing home wait times are so goddamn long. And you know what? Then they're just going to blame Democrats. These assholes. This ruling doesn't stop at Haiti. 6,000 Syrians lost their protection in the same decision. And the legal precedent the court just said, that immigrants cannot challenge TPS terminations in court on non-constitutional grounds. That door is now open for every nationality currently under TPS. Venezuelans, Salvadorans, Ukrainians. The court just told the president, you can cancel these protections. And the lower courts can't do a goddamn thing to stop you. Now let's talk about Hawaii. Hawaii had a law that said by default, if you own a business or a restaurant or a store with parks and any private property that is technically open to the public, guns are not allowed unless you, the property owner, explicitly said they were. You had to give affirmative consent. It's your land, these are your rules, that was the law. SCOTUS struck it down. Now everything's flipped. if you own private property and you do not want guns on it, you have to post signs. You have to spend money on signage. You have to make the affirmative action to protect your own space. The government has decided what happens on your land by default, and you have to actively work against the government's preference to exercise control over your own property. I want to ask the MAGA that are watching something directly, because I know many of you genuinely believe in property rights, in the idea that what you own is yours. The government cannot tell you what to do with your land, right? So what do you call it when the government overrides a property owner's right to set the default rules for their own space? When the government says, you don't get to decide who comes onto your land, especially if they're armed. We decide, and you have to fight us if you disagree. There's a word for a system where the government controls what happens on private property, where individual ownership becomes a technicality, and the state's preferences override the owners, where you can call it your property on paper, but you cannot actually exercise sovereign control over it. That word is communism. And conservatives and MAGA have spent 60 years telling me they're terrified of it. If you believe in property rights, actually believe in them, not just as a talking point you're force-fed by Fox News, then you should be as angry about this ruling as I am, because the principle being established here is that the government gets to set the default conditions of your private property. Today it's guns. What's it going to be tomorrow? A gun shop owner in Hawaii doesn't want loaded sorry, let's go back and do that. A shop owner in Hawaii who doesn't want loaded firearms on their premises during business hours just lost their default right to say so. Same with daycare centers, or churches, or private schools. The government has inserted itself into the most basic relationship between an owner and their land. And a court that claims to be the defender of individual liberty just said, fuck yeah. And then there's Bayer. SCOTUS ruled that you cannot sue Bayer, the company that makes the weed killer Roundup, in state court for failing to warn you that their weed killer might give you cancer. The federal pesticide law, the court said, preempts your right to sue. 200,000 people have filed claims against Bayer, saying Roundup caused their cancer. Mostly homeowners, or people who use it on their lawns and their gardens. People that take their kids to sports fields. 200,000 people. And SCOTUS just told them, you have zero recourse. We've been told loudly and repeatedly by this administration that they are going to make America healthy again. That RFK Jr. is going to clean up the food supply, and they're going to take on the chemical companies and the pharmaceutical companies and big agriculture and make America healthy and safe again. And then the Trump administration filed a brief in this case arguing on Bayer's behalf that these cancer lawsuits should be blocked. The Make America Healthy Again administration went to SCOTUS and argued that cancer patients should not be allowed to sue the company that gave them, or maybe have given them cancer. It's not 100%, but may have given them cancer. And the administration won. Glyphosate, the active ingredient in Roundup, has been classified as a probable human carcinogen by the World Health Organization's research arm. It is the most widely used herbicide in America. It's in our food, it's in our water, it's in our bodies. And this administration just made it legally impossible for most Americans to hold the company accountable for not telling them any of that. This isn't Make America Healthy Again. This is Make Bayer's legal bills smaller again. Take a look at these three decisions together. You strip protections from 350,000 immigrants who pay taxes and keep our economy running. You override private property owners' rights to control their own land. Then you block cancer patients from suing the chemical company that may have poisoned them. Who benefits? Certainly not most Americans. Certainly not property owners or cancer patients. Not the 50,000 children, American children, who might lose their parents to deportation. People who benefit from these decisions are the ones who funded the campaigns, packed the courts, spent decades engineering a judiciary that serves them instead of you. I'm not naive about how courts work. I know there are legal arguments underlying each of these decisions. I understand the word preemption and what statutory interpretation means. But I also know that the law is not neutral. The people who shape the law, who appoint the judges and fund the cases that reach the Supreme Court, they have interests. And those interests are not yours. So here's what I want you to do. You ready? Call your senators and demand that Congress pass a clean TPS extension bill. House already voted for it. 10 Republicans voted yes. It's not dead. Pressure your senators to bring it to the floor. Then demand hearings on the economic impact of mass deportation. Make them say out loud what it will cost to rip $6 billion a year out of the economy and deport the people keeping our elder care system functioning. If you're a property owner, a business owner, restaurants, anything, and you do not want guns on your property by default, post your signs, just do it now, exercise whatever rights you have left, then call your state legislatures and demand they fight back with state-level protections. And on Bear, support the organizations that are still fighting these cases at the federal level. 200,000 people who filed claims didn't give up. And you shouldn't let them fight alone. I'm angry about all of this, and you should be too. This is real life. And this court, which was engineered deliberately over decades by people with money and a plan, just told all of them, you don't matter as much as the interests we protect. We need major SCOTUS reform. We need to pack the courts. There need to be term limits and real enforceable ethics laws. I can only imagine what next week's rulings will be like. Please subscribe, share, like, and comment. And fight for the people this court just threw away.